Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Monday. Game 7, anxiety and anticipation.
The roof is going to be like blown off with the noise.
Go Jays go.
Canada's team, one win away from the World Series.
My aim is to go after organized crime.
Ottawa targets financial and consumer fraud.
Grocers want to keep traffic going to the meat counter.
Plus, foreign filet undercuts Canadian beef.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
One more win to go, and if the Jays beat the Seattle Mariners in this 7th game matchup in Toronto tonight, the men in blue and white will compete in the World Series for the first time since 1993. You can sense the excitement, the hopes of a nation. CTV's Raheem Ladani is at the Rogers Centre in anticipation of this do-or-die game. Hey, Raheem, set the scene for us.
Hey, Sandy, you know, this is the moment every player, not just on the Blue Jays, but on the Mariners as well, have dreamt of since they were children, to play in a Game 7. The Blue Jays franchise haven't had this opportunity in 4 decades, and tonight the entire city of Toronto is hoping to witness some October magic. Bursting with excitement, it's Sawyer's 5th birthday, and the only present he's wishing for are Blue Jays tickets.
That's kind of pulling at the heartstrings, getting them to a game, and be very memorable for sure.
And they aren't the only family tracking prices.
So they're about $700 around there.
After flying in from Ottawa for a wedding, Eric extended his trip in Toronto to witness the Jays' first Game 7 since 1985.
We came in last night, we asked them if we could extend the stay. They said yes, so now we're looking to find tickets and pay an arm and a leg, but whatever. It's the cost of doing business.
The city of Toronto hasn't experienced World Series baseball in 32 years. More recently, in 2019, the Toronto Raptors brought the city a championship. And this Blue Jays postseason run has created a similar palpable atmosphere.
The vibe is heavy. I remember when we won the NBA championship, and now the Blue Jays is at this point. It's so exciting. The buzz in the city is heavy, so we can't wait to see them win tonight and go to the main final and win it all.
They're going to win. They got to win. Kirk. I love Kirk.
I expect that today the roof is going to be like blown off with the noise.
The American League Championship Series didn't start the way the Jays had hoped. They lost the first 2 games at home, but the offensive bat of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and lights-out pitching by 22-year-old Trey Savage has brought them to this deciding moment. It's also fueling a friendly rivalry with the Seattle Mariners, a team that has never made it to the World Series.
I was here in Toronto 3 years ago for the Wildcard Series, had a great experience here then, so I wanted to come here. It's a fun banter with the Jays fan base and with the whole country of Canada, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Even the dogs are on their feet.
Go Jays!
Hoping the Jays can pull off another trick and punch their ticket to the World Series. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. said he's born for Game 7s, while Jays manager John Schneider says this is why he and his players sacrifice everything. For the Jays, if you lose, your season's over. If you win, it's a date with the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Sandy.
Fingers are crossed. Okay, Raheem, thanks. Now, if you're curious about how the Americans are covering the Jays' remarkable run, here's an example of a question put to rookie pitcher Trey Savage after his standout Game 6 performance.
What's the most Canadian thing that you've done since this postseason has begun?
Probably memorize the Canadian national anthem.
Can you sing it for us?
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada. I got you.
Well, as for the Jays' chances tonight, legends Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter think Toronto will follow the team's highest-paid player, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
He said, I want this to be a legacy postseason for me. I want to be the next Joe Carter. I want to bring the promised land, the glory days back to Canada.
Vladdy is obviously the face of the organization. He's the leader of the team, but this is a well-rounded team.
Guerrero Jr. is having an historic postseason with 6 home runs, tying Joe Carter and Jose Bautista for the most in team history. Now, some of the world's most popular apps like Ticketmaster for those Jays tickets, Snapchat and Signal are still recovering after Amazon Web Services was hit by a massive outage. It knocked out service to thousands of sites, affecting millions of users. CTV's John Vanavali-Rao now on the recovery and the hunt for the root cause. John.
Sandy, the affected services have continued to come back online this afternoon, with experts saying the outage should serve as a wake-up call. For users of some web services, this was the message they got this morning. Unable to connect to popular sites like language learning platform Duolingo and social media giant Snapchat. An outage that the site Down Detector says affected more than 2,000 companies.
I had a bunch of interviews lined up this morning using Zoom, and I couldn't use Zoom while this outage was in the midst, so I had to flip to a plan B.
Some Delta and United Airlines passengers in the U.S. reported problems accessing their online reservations, while in the UK there were bank customers who couldn't log into their accounts. The issues all stemming from a problem with Amazon Web Services.
At AWS,
which is the world's largest provider of cloud computing services, which many businesses and governments rely on.
Because these individual companies are so large and have such a big share of the market, it does have this cascading impact where one system goes down, then another, and then suddenly half the internet is gone.
The outage was first reported at around 3 this morning Eastern Time. A few hours later, Amazon said it had narrowed down the source of the problem, though connection issues persisted. An outage that also affected Amazon's own service, along with Disney, McDonald's, and others. Since 2020, there's been several large internet disruptions. Experts say part of the problem is a growing dependence on a small number of global cloud services, and shows how fragile the backbone of the internet can be.
this is a clear sign that having a cloud infrastructure that is so monopolistic is problematic.
And this afternoon, the Blue Jays said Ticketmaster was having related issues just hours before game time and asked fans to hold off managing their tickets while they worked through the problem. Sandy.
Okay, John, thanks. Now, if you've been a victim of online fraud, you'll be interested in our next story. November's federal budget will include plans for a new financial crimes unit to investigate money laundering and fraud. CTV senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture looks into how the new office fits into a larger anti-fraud strategy. Mike.
Sandy, according to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, financial scams cost people in this country $643 million last year. It's why, after 5 years of promising to tackle the problem, the Liberal government is finally acting.
Budget 2025 will introduce Canada's first ever national anti-fraud strategy.
The strategy is also coming with a new agency that will target money laundering and online fraud. Canada plans to collaborate with other countries to target those transnational crimes.
We're talking to the FBI, we're going to talk to the financial crime unit in the UK, but you know, my aim is to go after organized crime, is to go after those who scam and defraud Canadians.
There's no doubt that it's really late in the game.
Cybersecurity experts point out the Liberal government promised a financial crimes agency 5 years ago, and they say this multilateral collaboration with other countries is key to catching these types of criminals.
There's a culture of cooperation that needs to be built within our regulatory institutions, within our law enforcement, and within the financial system.
That's partly why the government will amend the Bank Act to require express consent from account holders before enabling services like e-transfers. They'll also require banks to have policies and procedures to detect consumer-focused fraud. The Canadian Bankers Association is on board and applauds the move to have a central financial crimes agency.
There's a lot of skills that involved, you know, the white collar, the movement of money, the complexities, and so having people that can be focused on that would be critical.
This is one of many pre-budget announcements the government is making leading up to November 4th. And today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre called on the Prime Minister to keep the deficit under $42 billion, something Mark Carney has already signaled will not happen. Sandy?
All right, Mike, in Ottawa. Now, the finance minister is also signaling the possibility of action on Canadian steel and aluminum. CTV's Abigail Beeman on what's in the works and what it means to the industry. Abigail.
Sandy, in terms of negotiating with the U.S., a government source tells CTV News the Canadian side is hopeful there will be movement on steel and aluminum this week. Signs of a potential deal are strong enough for the head of the Business Council of Canada to comment publicly.
There's reason to be cautiously optimistic that we're working towards some sectoral agreements on aluminum and steel and energy, more specifically. There's still work to do. We're optimistic that if they can get it to the finish line this week, something can be announced.
Maybe a reduction or a quota, but Goldie Hyder says we won't live in a tariff-free world.
This is not about China, it's about Canada.
Meanwhile, the finance minister is defending new counter-tariff exemptions for Canadian companies bringing in steel and aluminum from the U.S. and China.
So you're talking about a very small group of very specific products that needed to enter Canada to maintain the supply chain.
While the Canadian Steel Producers Association criticizes the exemptions for being too broad, Keenan Loomis represents Canadian steel fabricators and says the decision to exempt I-beams specifically is critical to about 500 Canadian businesses that work with the U.S.
This is really, really impactful when it comes to projects where my guys are working on American projects and bringing in the steel, engineering it, fabricating it here in our shops here in Canada, and then sending it back to the U.S.
The focus now, whether there will be a sectoral deal reached this week or during the Prime Minister's upcoming trip to Asia, where both he and the U.S. President are expected to attend the APEC summit. Sandy?
CTV's Abigail Beeman. An uproar over comments he made about Trudeau-era scandals allegedly being covered up by the RCMP has forced clarification from the federal Conservative leader. In a statement, Pierre Poilievre says his comments were directed at former RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki, whom he says has a lengthy track record of publicly documented scandals, deception and political interference to the benefit of the Liberal government. All right, let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelas. Okay, Vassy, you know, there must have been a lot of political pressure for Pierre Poilievre to issue this clarification. Is it enough to quell the uproar?
We'll see. I think a couple of things really stand out to me. The first is, Sandy, that it was issued at all. I can't remember the last time, in particular on behalf of the leader, a clarification was issued, which tells me there is an acknowledgement in and around the leader, since this came a number of days after the comments were first posted, that this is a political issue and could be an even bigger one for them. I think on the one hand, you've also got the fact that things are very close between the two parties. If you look at any public opinion poll, so they're trying very hard not to give any leeway to the Liberals who saw this as a net positive for them. And the second thing that really stood out to me is that when you talk about political pressure, much of it, it seems, was coming from within the Conservative Party and Conservative caucus itself. And that, I think, is for one primary reason. The party has positioned itself as very aligned with law and order and law enforcement. And this was a very distinct departure from that. Sandy?
Okay. Vassy, thanks so much for this. Well, we have an update on the murder of an Ontario restaurant owner. 3 Scottish men have agreed to be extradited to Canada to stand trial. 44-year-old Sharif Rahman died in August of 2023 after an alleged assault during an argument with a man over an unpaid bill. The suspect was helped by his father and uncle to flee the country. All 3 faced charges. Well, the mayor of Richmond, BC, is warning some homeowners they may lose their property rights after the province's Supreme Court settled a land claims dispute. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson on the controversy and the legal moves underway. Andrew.
Sandy, at issue here is the new uncertainty created by this court ruling and what it means for property owners.
This is us here. That's us for sure. That's the condos right there.
Angela Smith received a letter last week explaining she could one day lose her retirement condo.
Oh my gosh, it was complete shock and disbelief.
Smith's property borders the Fraser River in Richmond. The area was once a summer fishing village for the Cowichan tribes.
Our lands were taken. Our fishing rights were denied. Our voices were silenced. But we remembered.
Following the longest trial in Canadian history, in August, the BC Supreme Court sided with the Cowichan in a lawsuit against the federal and provincial governments, the city, and 2 other First Nations. The ruling grants the Cowichan fishing rights and title to 7.5 square kilometers of land.
My property that we owned, worked hard for our whole life to pay off and pay for, is now part of another property grab. We're opening a door to complete pandemonium, in my opinion.
The letters warning property owners came from Richmond's mayor, who calls this one of the most consequential rulings in Canadian history.
Potentially, it undermines the entire land title system that we have in this province and for much of Canada itself.
The city and the province are appealing the ruling. The premier today said clarity for property owners is needed urgently.
In the appeal, of course, we are arguing to defend those private property rights of those homeowners and for certainty to ensure that businesses can make the decisions to invest that they need to make.
That certainty likely won't come anytime soon. The appeal could be caught up in the courts for years. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Andrew Johnson. Coming up, muscling in on Canadian beef.
Our cow herd has been cut in half.
The cheaper options appearing on store shelves. If you're feeling the pain of Canadian beef prices, there's an alternative showing up on grocery store shelves. Lower priced products from Australia and New Zealand, but it's happening as Canadian producers struggle with lower demand. CTV's Kathy Lee in Calgary spoke with one local producer about what's going on in your meat section. Hey, Kathy.
Sandy, an Alberta rancher who has a shop on this property where he sells his beef products directly to customers, says one of the main reasons is because the price of Canadian beef is more expensive than imported beef. Dylan Biggs' family have been ranchers in this province since the 50s. He says the main factor driving up the cost of beef is the shrinking herd sizes.
In 2016, we had 7 good years. We had more grass than we knew what to do with. We went through a drought right through to 2024, and so our cow herd has been cut in half.
Smaller herds means higher prices because there isn't enough to meet the demand. Canadian government data shows the majority of imported beef still comes from the U.S., but between 2014 to 2024, the percentage of imported beef from the U.S. has decreased from 67% to 48%, while imported beef from all other countries, including Australia and New Zealand, has increased from 33% to 52%.
Grocers want to keep traffic going to the meat counter. It's a very lucrative space for them. And so to keep consumers engaged, they have to offer something affordable.
The rancher says the reason why beef from Australia and New Zealand is cheaper is because they don't have to deal with harsh winters, which means producing the meat is less expensive than the domestic option. Big says he expects the amount of imported beef to increase even more unless the size of herds in Canada are substantially increased, which would bring down the prices. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Kathy Lee. Still ahead, an acclaimed institution padlocked to the public after a big and baffling jewel heist has head scratching. Tragedy in Hong Kong after a Boeing 747 cargo jet careened off a runway and into the sea, killing 2 airport workers. The plane also collided with a security vehicle. The 4-person flight crew survived, even though the aircraft ended up in the water and broken in 2 parts.
The aircraft collided with the patrol car and pushed the car into the sea.
The 2 employees who were killed were found inside their car after rescuers dove into the sea. The U.S. is stepping up diplomatic efforts in the Middle East to try and save a fragile truce. Key negotiators, including Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met with Israel's prime minister today. Israel has released video of army vehicles and bulldozers towing blocks to create the yellow line in Gaza, marking the pullback that was part of the ceasefire plan. Israel and Hamas have accused each other of violating the truce after 2 Israeli soldiers were killed. A bombardment followed that the Hamas-run health ministry says left 28 people dead in Gaza. The remains of another Israeli hostage was also returned by Hamas to Israel. And the Louvre was closed for a 2nd straight day following an audacious jewel heist. The decision to shutter the celebrated museum disappointed tourists.
I think they should have announced the closure last night rather than this morning after everybody was already in line. But it's a shame.
As for the burglary thieves, wearing balaclavas broke into the museum in broad daylight using a crane. They smashed a window and about 7 minutes later fled on motorbikes with multiple French crown jewels adorned with diamonds and precious gemstones. President Emmanuel Macron has vowed that the perpetrators will be found. After the break, pumped up on national pride as Canada cheers on the Jays. It is a do-or-die night for the Blue Jays in their quest for the American League Championship. And Jays mania has spread far beyond Toronto, with the hopes of a nation firmly behind the team. CTV's Adrian Gabriel now on the excitement and anxiety right across the country. Adrian.
Sandy, here at the Cathedral of Canadian baseball, fans from coast to coast to coast have made the pilgrimage to support Canada's team. Now, sport has the unique ability to unite a nation, and during this remarkable season, the Blue Jays have done just that. When the Northern Lights are their brightest, this baseball team has brought a nation to its collective feet. It's been 32 years since Joe Carter touched them all, a decade since Batista's blast. Though this current iteration of the Toronto Blue Jays has fans flying high once again, prompting some to hop a flight for the big game, with one pilot even sketching the Blue Jays logo with his flight path over Nova Scotia.
You got a diamond, you got 9 men.
Canadian rock stars have been strumming along this postseason to the Blue Jays anthem.
You got them to spring till fall.
In Victoria, fans caught the ferry to games 3, 4, and 5 in Seattle.
There's only 30 teams in the MLB, and Canada only has one of them, but it only takes one to win.
Lifelong Expos fans are even pulling for Vladdy's senior son, taking the trip from Montreal.
We're going to Game 7.
Yes! This postseason run has brought families and Canadians together and given rise to the next generation of Blue Jays Nation.
We're very excited. Let's go, Blue Jays!
It might be fall in Canada, but hope does spring eternal across the country this October with one common goal, one common purpose.
Okay, Blue Jays, let's play ball.
And play ball they will. Tonight, the two most tense words in sports, Game 7. The hopes of a nation hang on each pitch, on every swing of the bat. Sandy.
Go Jays go. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.